To quote the great Alfreda, howdy, 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 from the Texas math teacher she calls me because I came to Sterling from Texas. So today we're going to be focusing on taking these additive and multiplicative relationships, the graphs that we've been reviewing, and combine them together. Today we're going to be graphing additive and multiplicative relationships. The steps to do them are similar but different, just kind of depending on the information that they give you. So let's get to it. So for this first bit of graphing, they're going to give us our y-intercept in an ordered pair, a point, a coordinate, a dot that we're going to need to put on the graph. So to graph a line when given the y-intercept in an ordered pair, the first thing we want to do is we want to plot the point, our y-intercept, on the y-axis. We reviewed this last class. Which one of these lines is my y-axis? The y-axis is the vertical axis, that line that goes up and down. So on these problems, if you want to highlight the y-axis to remind you where the y-intercept goes, be my guest. So again, we need to put the y-intercept, that 0, some point on our y-axis. As a reminder, if our y-intercept is positive, that means it's above the origin. But if it's below the axis, it's going to be a negative y-intercept. Positive y-intercept is above the origin. Negative y-intercept is below the origin. Again, doing little things like this, writing the plus and the minus to remind you where positives and negatives go. Highlighting the y-axis is going to set you up for success. So first, we're going to plot our y-intercept. For this first problem, my y-intercept is 5. That's a positive 5, so is it above or below my origin? It's above. So I need to count 5 spaces above. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is my y-intercept of 5. The next step, I need to plot my ordered pair. Here my ordered pair is -2, 3. When I'm graphing points, remember, it's the x first, then the y. The x is side to side, y is up and down. Just like up was positive, down was negative, the same thing happens for our x's. If we go to the right, that's positive, like on a number line. If we go to the left, that's negative. So if I have the point -2, 3, -2 is side to side, which means I'm going to go to the left because it's negative. And the 3 is positive, so we're going to go up. So for this coordinate, first I'm going to go 2 spaces to the left, then I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put my second dot. Once we have our 2 dots, we want to use a straight edge or a ruler to connect the dots to create your line. So I'm just going to take my ruler, connect my dots, and draw some arrows on my line. Voila! Doesn't have to be perfect. The biggest thing is putting those dots on there. Example B. We have our coordinate. We have our y-intercept. Let's start with our y-intercept. 4. So we start at the origin. Are we going to go up 4 or down 4? Yeah, we're going to go up 4 and put our dot. We're going up 4 because it's a positive y-intercept. Positive y-intercept. Then we need to graph our ordered pair. Ooh. Remember, the first number is side to side. First we have -1, so we need to go to the left one because it's negative. We go to the left one. And then -3. Are we going to go up 3 or down 3? down 3. So I'm going to count 1 to the left, and then down 1, 2, 3 spaces for my dot. I've got my 2 dots. I grab my ruler, and I'm going to make my line. If you don't have a ruler, that's totally fine. You could use like the side of a notebook, the side of a binder. You could use like your ID card that you get for lunch. You could use really anything that's as long as it's straight. All right, pause the video. Try example C on your own. Do the y-intercept, then the points, and then connect your dots. So our y-intercept here was -2. So we had to go down 2 from our origin. Then our point that they gave us was 1, 1. So we went to the right 1, and then we went up 1 for our new spot. Then we take our ruler, connect the dots, doesn't have to be perfect. And there we've got our next line. So that was graphing given the y-intercept and an ordered pair. They might also have you graph if they just give you the equation. They might just give you the equation. And we want to do something very similar. We're going to start off by plotting our y-intercept. Where do we look for our y-intercept at again? On the y-axis. The y-axis. Use your highlighters to help you out. Remember, our y-intercept, our b, is the second half, the number that we're adding or subtracting to our x. So on this first example, our y-intercept is +3. So is that above or below the origin? That's 3 spaces above the origin. Then we can use our slope to determine how to move our pencil. That's one way to do it. For this year, for 7th grade math, our slope for additive relationships would always be 1. So that means from our y-intercept, we're always going to go up 1 and over 1 for our new dot. That's one way to do it, where you can then connect your line, connect your dots to make your line. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. That's one way to do it. Just up 1 over 1 if the lines are all going by 1. So up 1 over 1. That's one way. I'll show you another way on this next example. Again, the first thing we want to do is plot our y-intercept. What is our y-intercept in this equation? -4, -4. So is our point going to be above or below the axis? It's going to be, or the origin. It's going to be 4 spaces below the origin. Down there for my y-intercept. So we could do our slope where we go up 1 over 1. That's one way to do it. Or another way you could do it, we could substitute in one of these numbers in for x. So let's say I want to do the number 1, 2, 3. Let's say I want to do the number 3. I can substitute 3 in for x and solve to get my y coordinate. So if I do 3 minus 4, what is 3 minus 4 equal to? -1. So that means if I make a new set of coordinates, 3 is my x and -1 is my y. I can plug in and solve my equation for my point. So when my x here was 3, my y would be -1, and I could put a dot right there. And now I have my 2 dots to make a line. It does not matter to us if you do the up 1 over 1 or if you use your equation to find your x and your y points. Whatever is easiest for you. I want you to pause the video and try on example F on your own. Plot your y-intercept, up 1 over 1, or use your equation to help you graph. Our y-intercept is a positive 1, so it's above the origin. I assume most of us like this first method first, where we go up 1 and over 1 for our second point so that we can connect the dots. Again, it does not matter which method you use. You do whatever makes you the most comfortable. The next video, we'll get into graphing proportional relationships, which is just a little bit different.